Welcome back to Let the Quran Speak. We're looking at the life of Jesus. And Brother Shabir, let's continue with the message of Jesus. What was his mission?
Well, his mission, according to the Quran, was to basically deliver the message of God, which is similar to the message that was delivered by prophets prior to him. So the Quran in Surah 3, for example, has him say that he came as a messenger to the people of Israel to confirm the message that was delivered prior to him, and also to make lawful some of the things which previously had been made unlawful in the law of God.
So he went about preaching, or was he situated in one particular place? Did it say anything about who his followers were?
The Quran says that he was sent to the people of Israel. In the Gospel according to Matthew, he's reported to have said in chapter 15, verse 24, "I have not been sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." That saying would seem to indicate a restriction, that he's restricted to the people of Israel. The Quran doesn't have it in the same way, and that the Quran now, while have him directed to the children of Israel, can allow for the possibility that others too may benefit from his message. But the Quran does not detail his travels, so we don't know from the Quran where he went and in what particular precincts he preached. The Quran mentions disciples of his. They are referred to as Hawariyun.
Okay.
Well, we don't know the exact meaning of that title, Hawariyun. Some scholars think that this refers to people who dyed cloth as a trade. But of course we know from the Gospels that Jesus' immediate disciples were mostly fishermen. So we don't know. Something here requires some further explanation, and the explanation
Did he have
is
many
not
followers?
given in the Quran itself. The Quran does not show how many followers he had. From the Gospels, we know that he had 12 persons that he singled out for a special rank of following. But the Quran does not give that number. But the Quran does show that his followers were devout persons. They were quite close to him and ready to carry out his instructions.
All right, and one of the most disputed items about his life is his supposed death. How did that come about?
Well, the Quran speaks of his death using an ambiguous reference. In Surah 3, for example, God is said to have addressed Jesus and said to him, "Inni mutawaffika wa rafi'uka ilay." I am going to take you and raise you to myself. The term that I've translated tentatively here as take you is mutawaffika, and it's related to the verb tawaffa, which can mean the fulfillment of a term or the repayment in a contractual sort of situation. And it can also be used as a euphemism for death. So God taking a person is one way of saying that God caused the person to die. But of course, it doesn't have to be that God caused the person to die. God can take souls in their sleep, for example, as the Quran mentions elsewhere. And we know from the Bible that Enoch walked with God and he was no more because God took him. The Bible also has it in the book of Kings that Elijah was taken up in a whirlwind. So when we say that God took a person, it doesn't necessarily mean that he was taken in death. So the Quranic reference to the end of Jesus' career has left it such that Muslim commentators were able to say that Jesus did not actually die.
So he didn't actually die? What do you think?
Well, of course, it's not something that we can settle now because we're living 2,000 years after the event. But looking at the Gospels, one can see that there are some indicators that have prompted some revisionists to think about the possibility that Jesus did not actually die on the cross, but that he was only on the cross for a few hours, whereas crucifixion usually took a longer time to kill a person. If one were looking for an inroad to coincide the beliefs of Christians and Muslims so that we can advance our dialogue together, One suggestion that Muslims can offer in explaining the Quranic text is to say that the Quran is allowing for the possibility that Jesus, though being put on the cross by his enemies, was not actually killed at the hands of his enemies, but that God took him, such that the end became a mystery. When people looked for his body, they couldn't find his body, and the simple explanation for that is not that somebody else had taken him away, but that God took him into heaven.
Very briefly, because we have to close, but how is Jesus regarded by Muslims? Is he as great a prophet as some of the other prophets within the tradition?
Yes, in fact, he is mentioned among one of the special five, the Ulul Azm, those of great determination. They are known to be five individuals, the Prophet Abraham, Moses, Noah, Jesus, and the Prophet Muhammad.
All right, thank you for that, Brother Shabir.
You're welcome.
We'll take a break. When we return, we answer questions we've received from you, our viewers.